Hello and welcome to Charlie's Desk. Um, I'm going to try and make a quick video, but we'll see how it goes. And it is about a character, a real guy named, believe it or not, Napoleon Bonaparte Kneass Jr. He was born in 1843 in New Orleans, and he ended up going to the Philadelphia School for the Blind, sometime starting in the 1850s, and he became a printer for the blind and developed what was called Philadelphia line. It was another linear type, tactile type for people who are blind, and it was a response to Boston line type, which I recently made a video about. And so what Philadelphia line is, it was called combined line. So if you know about Boston line type, you know that they didn't use any capitals. It was just lowercase to reduce the number of symbols somebody had to learn. So this, is a little bit problematic because, punctuation and capitalization are kind of important. So Samuel Gridley Howe publishes the first book in Boston line type, the Acts of the Apostles, in 1834. And then by 1868, so 34 years later, this guy, N.B. Kneass Jr., was making his response to it. And I think it looks more readable tactily than Howe's Boston line type. The letters seem larger, smoother. There seems to be a little bit more space between them. When I touch them with my fingers, it feels a little bit more discernible. So the previous example that I had talked about, which was an invitation to graduating exercises for the Illinois School for the Blind in 1912, this is actually an example of combined line. So I'll just hold it up closer to the camera. The list of graduates has capital letters. That's how you know it's combined line. But if you look at the shape of the lowercase letters, they are more angular than the letters in the Philadelphia line, because these are the lowercase letters from Boston line type, which were just taken and then used with capital letters from Philadelphia line to be combined line. So I think this was a way for folks to improve the system by having, capitalization, and save money by keeping all their lowercase letters. So I said in a previous video that this invitation was an example of Boston line type. It's not, it's combined line. The lowercase letters do seem to be Boston line type because they're more angular. So there's some A's here, lowercase A's. It almost looks like a diamond with sort of a bent line on the right side. And then if we look at the Philadelphia line example, it is more rounded and looks more like a print A with a serif than the Boston line type does. So yeah, it's pretty cool because this guy was blind himself. He was the son of a kind of wealthy guy, Napoleon Bonaparte Kneass Sr., who sold leather goods in New Orleans and Philadelphia. He had big warehouses in New Orleans and Philadelphia, and they sold saddles. I mean, if you think about it, everybody was riding horses, so that's like selling a component of a car, right? He made a lot of money, and then his son becomes blind at 7 from what they were calling sunstroke, but that, who knows what that was. And then he goes to Philadelphia in 1850, right after his son becomes blind. And then both the elder and the junior, N.B. Kneass start showing up in the annual reports of the Philadelphia School for the Blind as a student. And then later as an instructor and teacher for the blind. N.B. Kneass Jr. He was in all the like American Association of Instructors for the Blind. He's in discussions with William Waite, who was the guy behind New York Point. He was in all of that, and he was very well respected. And at some point, his press was producing more books for the blind than all of the other presses combined. And that might speak more to his family wealth. And I had also, another thing that was wrong about a previous video is I thought that the Matilda Zeigler Magazine for the blind was the first print magazine for people who are blind. But actually, this guy, Kneass, published a magazine for the blind, the Philadelphia Magazine for the Blind, before that. In the 1870s, and that's when this is from. This is from 1876. So he was born in 1843. So he would be 33. He was doing this at least since he was 25. There was a later entrance date for suggested for people to go to schools. That was something I noticed in one of the annual reports, which are very detailed and fascinating windows like into the histories of these schools, and they're available online. One of the whoops, I'm gonna knock my camera over. I'll zoom in quite a bit, and I'll talk about one of the details that tells you a little bit about how this was made. So each letter had its own little block, and they would arrange all these little letters and then clamp them together and then run them through the printing press. And because they had to press so hard, right, to indent the paper, and the paper would either be hot or wet when you were doing this, so it would have some flex. And so you can see lightly imprinted, there is a little square the size of each letter throughout the whole page. So it's like just has this light checkering indentation behind all the letters that would just be like so lightly tactily present, and is very lightly visually present at all. But just a cool window into how the thing was made. So yeah, it's some poem. I don't know, not really worth reading, but a very cool example and a window into a really neat figure. This N.B. Kneass guy. So here, let me move my camera. So on the side is N.B. Kneass, so that's Kneass Jr., publisher for the blind, Philadelphia, PA. So I'm gonna try and make some more videos about this guy the more I found out about him, and the more I read. But he really, it's beautiful. To me, this is just so beautiful. And knowing a little bit about how much work it was to put together all this stuff, and knowing that this guy was blind himself, and this makes me really curious, because also, like, in the annual reports, they have references of like what they were selling in their workshops, and there were some cool devices that are just sort of like lost to history in this intermediate stage, around all these efforts to to make a good tactile code, so to make reading easy when you're blind. So beautiful stuff. Glad to find this piece. Glad to encounter this new character. There just seems to be a million of them. And yeah, thanks for watching. If you like the video, subscribe. I'll be making more. Okay, bye.